So here's a question for you. If our federal government throws us a fancy military parade, right? And you think it's really cool, planes flying overhead and tanks ripping up the streets of Virginia and DC, does that make it okay that the military being celebrated is being used in service to essentially suppress us and our rights? Does that make it okay? Let's see. If a bunch of your neighbors surround your house to prevent ICE agents from coming to kidnap you illegally, does the fact that your neighbors are willing to do that for you make it okay that people sanctioned by our government are trying to kidnap you illegally? Well, actually, I don't think you could kidnap somebody legally. Let's use a more personal example. If, one of your parents treats you really, really well on your birthday, but then all of the other days of the year speaks to you in a way that's abusive, both emotionally and psychologically, does it make it okay just because they happen to treat you well once in a while? No, it does not. I think we're seeing a lot, especially given the almost insane volume of news that's coming out of the federal government. It's easy to get distracted. It's easy to focus on the things that in the end, maybe they matter. Like, it matters that this so-called commander-in-chief, it matters that the man allegedly running our government, I should say ostensibly running this country, is on social media and his brain is melting out of his ears. Yeah, that matters for sure. But most of us knew that. What we should be paying more attention to is not just what it means to have somebody in charge who is so out of his mind, so diminished, so cruel, so susceptible, so malleable, but what is his behavior doing to give cover to those who are actually psychologically intact and who are more competent and more skilled at dismantling this country, its government, its art, and its democracy, because they have their own malign purposes. So, if something relatively good happens to counter, or I should say, to mitigate the devastating effects of a terrible thing that's happened, that's not enough to get us to stop paying attention to the utterly terrifying, horrible, and purposeful things that are being done by this country in our names. Let's dive in. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Mary Trump Live. It is very good to have you here. It's Monday, which means that there's a lot to catch up on because we had a weekend, or did we? I don't think there are such things anymore. Yeah, a lot is going on, and we wanted to start with additional updates about Kilmar Garcia, the man illegally deported to El Salvador by the Trump regime. Just as a reminder, Mr. Abrego Garcia is a resident of Maryland, which is why Senator Chris Van Hollen, senator from Maryland, because Abrego Garcia is his constituent, traveled down to El Salvador to see him after being essentially disappeared. Mr. Abrego Garcia was transferred illegally incarcerated in a gulag. a notorious prison called Sikot. But right before Senator Van Hollen got there, Abrego Garcia was transferred to an administration building at Centro Industrial, where he has his own room with a bed and furniture instead of a prison cell that is most certainly full of other prisoners. Now, this is according to a court filing. This update comes in the wake of federal judge Paula Zinnes ordering the government to provide daily status updates on Abrego Garcia's condition and location as the battle for his return plays out in court and the Trump regime faces contempt charges for refusing to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's return. But all is not as it seems for this illegally incarcerated man. Yeah, sure, he's in better conditions than he was in at the Gulag, which is, again, notorious for human rights violations and horrific, inhumane conditions. But El Salvadorian President Bukele, the self-styled coolest dictator on the planet, who's a very, very small man, which must be why he and Donald seem to get along so well. He was caught trying to make Mr. Abrego Garcia's conditions seem much more luxurious than they were. In fact, to say more luxurious suggests that they were in any sense luxurious at all. Watch Senator Van Hollen on CNN.
President Bukele, after I met with Kilmar, did this tweet showing us at a table with these two glasses. So here's what happened. When I first sat down with Kilmar, we just had glasses of water on the table. I think maybe some coffee. And as we were talking, one of the government people came over and deposited two other glasses on the table with ice, and I don't know if it was salt or sugar around the top, but they look like margaritas. And if you look at the one they put in front of Kilmar, it actually had a little less liquid than the one in front of me, to try to make it look, I assume, like he drank out of it. Let me just be very clear. Neither of us touched the drinks that were in front of us. And if you want to play a little Sherlock Holmes, I'll tell you how you can know that. If you sip out of one of those glasses, some of whatever it was, salt or sugar, would disappear. You would see a gap. There's no gap. Nobody drank any margaritas or sugar water or whatever it is.
All right. The truth of the matter, first of all, that's not funny. The truth of the matter is that we have no idea what's happening over in El Salvador. And we have the Trump regime threatening to send more U.S. citizens, or I should say U.S. citizens, because although Mr. Abrego Garcia was here legally, which is really all that matters, he's not a U.S. citizen. So Donald and his cabal are threatening to send U.S. citizens over to foreign prisons. We have no idea. We have no idea what will happen. We have no idea what's happening now, because let's remember, although the Abrego Garcia case is extraordinarily important in terms of due process, in terms of whether or not the judiciary is still a co-equal branch of government that has the ability to act as a check and balance on the executive branch. We have dozens of other people being detained illegally from this country who are of Venezuelan origin, most of whom, as far as we know, were here legally, or at least hadn't committed any serious crimes, right? That was the criterion, right? We're going to get rid of the worst of the worst. I mean, Donald Trump is still here, so that hasn't happened, obviously. But that case, also has a lot to do with due process. So we're still waiting. Why? Does it matter that for a day anyway, Mr. Abrego Garcia was put in a slightly less horrible place, or maybe had a room to himself? Is that really the game changer here? Isn't it indeed the fact that he's there at all? I mean, quite honestly, he could be in a luxury condo and it would still be despicable and horrific and illegal and un-American and anti-American and unconstitutional. He's been ripped away from his family. He's been ripped away from his home and his job. His freedom has been stripped from him. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't care if he were in a nicer place. But of course, he's not. And in fact, every minute he remains there, his life, his future are in danger because he's originally from El Salvador. He fled El Salvador to escape its gang violence. A judge in this country never, ever, ever claimed that Mr. Abrego Garcia, who was a teenager, he was 16 years old when he came over here, never said that he was a criminal. He does not have a criminal record, never said he was a gang member, never said he was a terrorist. None of those things have been proven. These are lies the Trump regime is telling us to excuse the behavior they wish to be engaging in without any accountability. So this judge years ago said that under no circumstances would Mr. Abrego Garcia be able to be sent back to El Salvador. Why? Because to do so would almost certainly put him in danger of being tortured or losing his life. So do you think it matters that he has a room to himself on occasion, or that he has a margarita? Well, that's not happening. That man is living in fear of his life every day. He's living in fear of never seeing his family ever again, just as his family is living in fear of never seeing him again. All because Donald Trump and thugs like Christy Goguen and Tom Homan are sadists who, despite the fact they originally admitted that this was a clerical error, this guy never should have been taken away. Oh, well, what are you going to do? We have a point to make. He's brown. We don't have to care about his due process. We don't have to prove that we had the right to disappear him. What are we not willing to risk to kick him out of our country? Well, we know what they're willing to risk, not even risk, what they are willing to bring on. The unraveling of the rule of law by ignoring people's habeas rights, by ignoring people's rights to due process, and a constitutional crisis in which the judiciary fails us yet again, proving that the constitutional order is no longer operative. So Donald Trump and the sadists with whom he has surrounded himself can continue to be as abjectly cruel to people who were vulnerable and at risk, because that's America now. Now, obviously, this isn't just about Mr. Abrego Garcia. It's about his rights and all of our rights. And voters and politicians have echoed that sentiment. People are paying attention. And Senator Van Hollen is really stepping up, which I appreciate. This is him on Meet the Press.
This is not about one man.
The power of government, the White House, and the courts, and the question of who gets to decide how policies are carried out is centered around one man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, whose sudden and mistaken deportation on March 15th has drawn comments from the president, rulings from the Supreme Court, and an international trip by U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen.
I want to be very clear. I'm not vouching for the man. I'm vouching for the man's rights.
It just sets a really, really scary precedent if we can just send anybody we want overseas and not give them any due process. And then once they're there, we just say, oh, we can't do nothing about it. Oh, we messed up. Sorry. Oh, well. That's, to me, extremely scary. Extremely scary.
If you deny the constitutional rights of one man, you threaten the constitutional rights for everybody. And anybody who can't stand up for the Constitution and the right of due process doesn't deserve to lead.
The next court dates on the matters are scheduled for this week.
What's the rush? Even Donald's most staunch allies are fighting back against his deportation of American citizens. When asked about his opinion on all of this, Louisiana Senator John Foghorn Leghorn Kennedy told me the press the following quote: We have our own laws. We have the Eighth Amendment to the Constitution. We shouldn't send prisoners to foreign countries, in my judgment, unquote. Yeah, way to qualify it. Democrats, of course, agree, in rare alliance with Republicans like Kennedy. In fact, a group of Democrats, Representative Robert Garcia, Representative Maxwell Frost, Representative Yasmin Ansari, and Representative Maxine Dexter, all just landed in El Salvador to investigate the conditions of those recently deported from the U.S. to El Salvadorian prisons further. Good. This should be hammered on every single day, because as Senator Van Hollen said, this is not in a very real sense about the man. It's about his rights, and it is about the slippery slope we find ourselves on. Yet another slippery slope that we are more than halfway down, quite frankly. Because if it could happen to Mr. Abrego Garcia, if it can happen to those dozens of Venezuelan men who are also being held under horrific conditions, if it can happen to somebody who was, according to the United States government, apprehended, detained, and deported accidentally, but oh well, what are you going to do about it? And if there is no recourse, if the courts have no mechanism with which to enforce their rulings, who are we again? Donald's attacks on American citizens is just beginning. I mean, we know that he's going after Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, he's going after birthright citizenship. Why? Well, let's see. I mean, I'm not even sure if he knows this because he's an idiot and he's historically illiterate. But the Section 1 of the 14th Amendment was written in the wake of the Civil War so that freed Black people who had previously been enslaved were guaranteed the full rights of American citizenship, and nobody could do anything about that. Now, obviously, the Section 1 of the 14th Amendment now applies to anybody born on American soil. But because the fascist Republicans have been at this for a very long time, they have been trying for years now to convince some segment of the American population that birthright citizenship should not apply to brown children whose parents come here to seek a better life for themselves, because they have been deluded into thinking that America is a country of immigrants. And now those children are referred to derogatorily by these fascists as anchor babies. You know who is an anchor baby? My grandfather. Donald's father. Yeah, he was white. U.S. Border Control detained a 19-year-old U.S. citizen for 10 days, despite his repeated insistence that he was a citizen. On April 8th, Jose Hermosillo, a New Mexico resident visiting Arizona, was detained by Border Patrol in Nogales, a city about an hour south of Tucson. According to a Border Patrol criminal complaint, a Border Patrol official found Hermosillo without the proper immigrant documents and claimed that the young American had admitted entering the U.S. illegally from Mexico. Not entirely sure how you can be an American citizen and enter this country illegally, but what do I know? I'm not an ICE agent with an agenda who's been empowered by the racists in the White House. 2 days later, the federal court document notes that Hermosillo continued to claim he was a U.S. citizen. On 17th of April, a federal judge dismissed his case. Mark Joseph Stern, a legal analyst for Slate, wrote on Blue Sky, quote, "Under the Trump administration's theory of the law, the government could have banished this U.S. citizen to a Salvadoran prison, then refused to do anything to bring him back. This is why the Constitution guarantees due process to all," unquote. While Donald continues to ignore the Constitution almost seemingly without repercussion, I know it's easy to feel hopeless. I saw a clip, however, this weekend that reminded me that one, people are paying attention, and two, if we stick together, we have power. No matter how small the gesture might seem, no matter how insignificant the power might feel, comparatively speaking, we can still make a difference. Maybe it's just one person at a time. I don't know. But we have to try. We just need to be ready to seize the opportunities as they present themselves to us. So here's ABC during Donald's first term in 2019. And I think this is a useful reminder of how powerful our communities can be if we remember we belong to communities instead of allowing them to divide us, distract us, demoralize us, exhaust us. Take a look.
In Tennessee, neighbors form a human chain to keep ICE agents from taking a man into custody. 2 agents arrived at the Nashville area home early this morning. The man had lived there for 14 years. He and his 12-year-old son were reportedly hiding in a van in their driveway when the ICE vehicle blocked them. But neighbors worked together to keep the agents away long enough so the family could retreat back into their home. The agents eventually left without the man.
All right. We're at a time in our history where American citizens have to prove they're American citizens or be incarcerated. For 10 days, an American citizen was incarcerated. Why? Because he was being asked to prove that he was an immigrant. Oh, yeah. Keep forgetting this part. He's brown and he had a Hispanic name. As Mark Joseph Stern reminded us, this is why every single person in this country, regardless of why we're here or how we got here, regardless of whether we're a citizen or we're a tourist or we're a student from another country, or heaven forfend, we're here illegally to find work, to find better conditions for our family, because America has always held out that hope, has it not? That is why every single person on American soil is supposed to have the right to due process, is supposed to have the right to face charges in a court of law, get representation, and understand any actions being taken against us. Because otherwise, we have anarchy, and no person in this country, I don't care who you're related to, I don't care how many generations you've been in this country, I don't care. Not one of us is safe, and not one of us has the rights guaranteed to us by the Constitution of the United States of America, which this administration and, quite frankly, the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court disdain and are willing to set on fire for a vision of this country I cannot possibly recognize. Donald's actions are wreaking even more chaos this time. Oh, here's a shocker for you. When it comes to the markets, let's see why that's happening again. Stocks crashed again today. Why? Tariffs? I mean, that's what you would think, right? You would think, oh, that idiot is talking about tariffs again. He is just, without any rationale whatsoever, imposing more tariffs on one of our largest trading partners, right? Like, that seems to be his thing the last couple of months. It must be more tariffs. No, it's because the guy in the Oval Office is attacking our Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, who is trying to protect the markets from Donald's insanity, quite frankly, and is completely nonsensical. I guess we'll call them policies, just for lack of a better word. So because Donald is attacking the Fed chair who is trying to stabilize the economy, the Dow dropped 2.8%, the S&P shed 2.7%, and the NASDAQ lost 2.9%. So let's see, how exactly did Donald, rise to the occasion and realize, oh, wow, I better do something to calm things down, right? Because clearly I'm so all-powerful, anything I say has an impact on what happens with the markets. And I said something ill-advised and the markets are spiraling out of control. Perhaps I should say something advised. That's not a thing. I apologize. Perhaps I should say something reasonable. Nope. This is what he did. Donald called Powell Mr. Too Late, a major loser on his failing social media platform, and he implored Powell to lower rates, which, I'm not an economist at all, but I'm pretty sure Jerome Powell is not lowering interest rates for a reason. And again, that reason is very closely tied to the volatility, the chaos and uncertainty that Donald is bringing to the American economy, the global economy, and hence the markets. This once again raises questions about the central bank's independence. And all the while, traders receive no signs of progress on global trade talks. Tariffs with China are still sky high, and all Donald can manage is to continue to come up with ways, like idiotic ways, to tank the economy further because his ego is so fragile that the idea that anything he has done is the cause of the problem is utterly beyond his comprehension. And nobody will tell him otherwise. American companies are already feeling the effects of Donald's economic inanity. A Chinese airline returned a Boeing jet they had previously ordered in response to the massively rising costs in the wake of Donald's tariffs. And this is according to reporting from The Guardian. China's Xiamen Airlines returned the plane back to Seattle, where Boeing's production hub is based. This comes in the wake of reports that last week China's government had asked Chinese airlines to pause purchases of aircraft-related equipment and parts from American companies like Boeing. Boeing's order book had 130 planes scheduled to deliver to Chinese companies at the end of March. For example, just to give you an idea of how much business goes to China. China buys a lot of American products. Earlier this month, Boeing chief executive Kelly Ortberg told a U.S. Senate hearing that the company sold about 80% of its planes overseas and wanted to avoid getting into a situation where, quote, certain markets become closed to us, unquote. 80% of their inventory is sold abroad. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm not pretending that Boeing's a great company. Don't get me wrong. But Boeing has a huge stake in this and is representative of other companies that are in the same boat. The report says that China holds about 20% of the expected global demand for aircraft over the next 2 decades. One country, 20%. And now, because of tariffs that are so high, they're returning planes because they would be more than twice as expensive as they were when they originally purchased them because of Donald's tariffs. So while Donald tries to destroy our economy, I mean, he's trying very hard. A judge is at least trying to stop his destruction of an important federal agency. A judge ordered that the Trump regime stop its mass firings and attempted dismantling of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Watch CBS's coverage here.
In today's Money Watch, a federal judge is blocking the Trump administration's plans to dismantle the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The government had planned to slash nearly 90% of the workers at the Bureau, essentially dissolving it. The Bureau works to safeguard against fraud, abuse, and deceptive practices. But the Trump administration says that it has overstepped its authority. The judge ordered the government to preserve the Bureau until a lawsuit seeking to save it is resolved.
You know that new motto, the Republican motto, waste, fraud, abuse, waste, fraud, abuse, waste, fraud. Yeah, I mean, actually, I credit to Mike Johnson. He can literally say that, waste, fraud, abuse, like 20 times in less than 14 seconds. I've clocked it. That is what the Consumer Federal, I'm sorry, I always forget the acronym stands for. That's what the CFPB is for. And the Trump regime trying to dismantle it, which leads me to believe that they don't really care about waste, fraud, and abuse when it's committed against American people. What they really want is to protect their ability to commit waste, fraud, and abuse. That's my guess. U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson ordered the Trump regime to pause the rapid firing of the CFPB's workforce, saying she believed it could violate an earlier court decision. Jackson seemed to believe that the Trump regime might be telling the courts, literally, screw you. Like, judges are starting to get it. She said, quote, "There's a reason to believe the administration are thumbing their nose at judges who have ruled against them. Judges, stop being so polite, will you? Come on. Gloves off." I mean, this sort of sounds familiar to me, right? Like the fact that Donald Trump and many of the attorneys at his DOJ are ignoring court rulings about immigration, about DOJ, about reinstating, well, I don't know if illegally, but potentially illegally, potentially unconstitutionally fired federal workers, right? They're just ignoring very clear orders from federal judges. They're even ignoring the Supreme Court. And I think many in the judiciary are starting to catch on. But then the question remains, and this is the question right now, the most important question in some ways right now. What is the enforcement mechanism, and what do we do if the Trump regime continues to ignore very clear orders given to them by federal judges and by the Supreme Court? Then where are we? The details of the mass layoffs at CFPB are shady, shockingly enough. Attorneys for the National Treasury Employees Union filed a sworn statement from a CFPB employee identified by the pseudonym Alex Doe. The employee said Gavin Kliger, a member of DOJ, okay. I'm going to pause for a second here. This is kind of a very clear illustration of the problem. DOJ doesn't exist as a legal constitutional entity. And yet, these thugs, these unvetted, unelected, unconfirmed minions of Elon Musk, are winding their way through every single federal agency and giving people orders and threatening people and making decisions they have no right to make. It's insanity. Anyway, we're told that Kliger was managing the agency's layoff team charged with sending layoff notices. The statement says, quote, "He kept the team up for 36 hours straight to ensure that the notices would go out yesterday. Gavin was screaming at people he did not believe were working fast enough to ensure they could go out on this compressed timeline, calling them incompetent," unquote. Do you think that I would be exaggerating if I said that that is happening in every single agency in this country? That these incompetent people, these ignorant people, these unqualified people, these people who should have absolutely no authority are completely drunk on their illegitimate power that was bestowed to them illegitimately by somebody who has absolutely no business anywhere near the levers of power. And yes, I could be talking about 3 billion people, but in this instance, I'm talking about Elon Musk and Donald Trump. This has DOJ written all over it. I mean, this is the modus operandi of DOJ. They're just incompetent, they're callous, and again, they are drunk on their petty power. Of course, the Trump regime wants to eliminate agencies like CFPB, right? This was the brainchild of Senator Elizabeth Warren, and it was created after the Great Recession to safeguard against those things that Republicans pretend to care about now: fraud, abuse, and deceptive practices. The interesting thing here is that Republicans are saying that we need to dismantle agencies in order to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. But what the CFPB proved to us was that if done properly, agencies can actually protect Americans' consumers, Americans' citizens, and actually prevent fraud, abuse, and waste. What a concept. Yeah, well, that's what happens. That's what happens if for 4 decades people are told that government is the problem. It's bullshit. Government, people running a government who don't understand the greater good. That's the problem. The CFPB is not the only government agency they're all experiencing turmoil, but just recently, according to an official source, as reported by NPR, the White House has begun the process of looking for a new Secretary of Defense in the wake of another debacle by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. This is WGMT's coverage of this.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is under fire once again for allegedly discussing military plans on a non-government messaging app. Three sources confirm a group chat on Signal earlier this year included his brother, personal attorney, and spouse. The two men work for the Defense Department, but Hegseth's wife does not. Sources say he used his personal phone for the discussion ahead of strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen.
No matter what they will spin at this Pentagon, this stuff is classified, no doubt about it.
Experts say allies could be less likely to share intelligence with the U.S. if they're worried about security. They say another concern is espionage.
These types of signal chats, even if they happen in the United States, in the D.C. area, you can bet that the Russians and the Chinese are working very hard to intercept them.
Am I having deja vu? I mean, top secret military plans sent to people without clearance in an unsecure signal chat group. I mean, I'm pretty sure this has happened before, and I'm pretty sure it was a big deal, and I'm pretty sure that it's something that shouldn't have happened once, let alone twice. But this is what happens when you don't care who you put in charge. It's not just Pete Hegseth, although Pete Hegseth does have one of the most important jobs of consequence in the American government. He is the Secretary of Defense, and it is, there is not a strong enough word to describe how absolutely humiliating it is to have that incompetent idiot in charge of the Pentagon. So we shouldn't be surprised that it's out of control. I mean, it is, I'm a little surprised that his wife has to be in all of his classified briefings with him. I mean, that's weird. That's deeply weird. I mean, it's weird that he would want her there. It's weird that she thinks that's okay. But of much more consequence is the fact that he was nominated in the first place and confirmed. Because I am very sorry, almost every single Republican senator knew that this was a disaster waiting to happen. So if we want to hold somebody responsible, it's Republicans. I mean, it's looking bad for the Pentagon and Hegseth. A former top Pentagon spokesperson, John Oliot, who recently quit after working with Hegseth, like who wouldn't, describes it as total chaos and a full-blown meltdown under Hegseth. This includes mass firings, infighting, and a leak of sensitive military plans. Again, like none of which should surprise us. The guy isn't qualified. He's not just incompetent; he's unqualified. It is I don't know. I don't remember how many people are under him, but it's in excess of 2 million. And this is a guy who was one of 3 hosts on a Fox weekend show. Like he couldn't even carry a weekday show. Like that's how bad he is at anything, let alone running the Pentagon. So we don't know what else could possibly be going on. But with people like Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard in charge of our national security, well, let's put it this way. We don't have much of that anymore. There's some good news, right? Americans are fighting back against Donald and the corruption of the Trump regime. Over the weekend, there were massive anti-Trump regime 50-51 rallies held across the country. It was a quite stunning show of solidarity. And here is CBS News Chicago that covered the large turnout at Daley Plaza.
The more people come out, the quicker the government will change.
A sea of people at Daley Plaza want to turn the tide of the Trump administration.
There's a lot of energy. People are very upset right now.
The gathering, called the People's Protest, is organized by the 50-51 movement.
50 states, 50 protests, one movement.
The protest in Chicago is part of a national movement.
And this is nationwide.
Calling on the government to uphold the Constitution.
I wrote, the Constitution doesn't swipe left or right.
And end executive overreach.
It's the second Saturday in 2 weeks that a protest against President Trump has taken over Daley Plaza.
A movement of people who vow to keep moving for change.
According to organizers, over 3 million people showed up to protest against Donald and his government and his anti-democratic policies. Sarah Parker was one of the coordinators of the 50-51 movement, and she told CNN, quote, "We're sending a clear and urgent message to the country and to those in power that people are paying attention, we are organizing, and we will not accept authoritarian overreach, fascist policy, or the dismantling of our rights under the Constitution," unquote. Okay, before I continue to the emotional support moment, which we always need, do me a favor and drop a comment if you attended one of the rallies this weekend. Or what would be also very cool, send us your protest photos at info@marytrumpmedia.com because we would love to see them and share them. Okay, so what's one of our, I think we're going to sense themes as we continue with our emotional support. But what's one of our go-tos? Right. Well, it's turtles, obviously. There are other things too, but it's often turtles, kittens, astronomy. It's spring, and actually, I did not know this, but spring is turtle time. I mean, I guess it depends where you live because not all places have spring. I'm guessing Hawaii doesn't have turtle time because they don't have spring. But this time, this is in Surf City. Oh, there's a place in North Carolina called Surf City. How adorable. So volunteers are gearing up right now. And this is so cool. Sea turtle nesting season. So here's a report from NBC Network affiliate WAVY. Wavy. I mean, come on, guys. Wavy TV from Surf City, North Carolina. Does it get any better than that? Yes, it does, because we're going to watch this video.
Turtle time continues along the East Coast as another state prepares for sea turtles to build nests along the water with the warmer weather coming.
Right now I am at the Karen Beasley Sea Turtle Hospital where they see different types of sea turtles on a daily basis. They say sea turtle nesting season starts typically around May, but they are already getting ready. Starting May 1st, the organization's volunteers will start surveying all 26 miles of Topsail Island to look for sea turtle tracks. They'll then mark any nests they find and place wire over top of it to protect it from predators. They'll also take one egg to collect the mom's DNA and track past and future nests.
If you see a sea turtle on the beach, you just need to remain a respectful distance. Never shine a white light on them, never touch them, never interfere with their progress at all. Just appreciate how lucky you are and stand back and watch the whole thing. So any kind of interference, touching, flash photography, a dog barking maybe, all of that just disrupts what she's doing, and she'll just go back in the ocean without nesting.
And that would be terrible because we need our baby turtles. We need our big turtles too, but we need our baby turtles. So again, it's times like these that we need to be reminded there are people on this planet who care enough to go out of their way to protect baby sea turtles. Anyway, yeah, that's awesome. So it is time to get to your questions and comments. So let's start with Lily Pad Ribbit. Thank you very much for that. Very kind of you. Comment, Mary, thank you so much for highlighting the giant squid last week. Please consider this donation to be a squid pro quo. Touche. Well done. Well played. Thank you. I might make that official. Never know. Mariana, thank you as always. And it's a cat treats fee. I'm telling you, this Mary Trump media. I Legion of Kittens. I keep forgetting what the group of kittens is. Kindle. It's called the Kindle of Kittens. We are going to have a Kindle of Kittens. So big because look at all these treats we're going to have. Thanks, Mariana. Mighty Cheryl, thank you as always. Oh, cat love fee. See? Again, though, for those of you who are not aware, the fees are not real. We do not impose fees here. They are voluntary and becoming increasingly awesome and clever. So thanks, guys. Elaine, thank you so much, Elaine. That's awesome. Question, curious. Where were the children of... yeah. Where were the children of color at the Easter egg roll yesterday? Kind of like how he wouldn't let black dealers on the casino floor. Yeah, well, he's a racist. He's not just racist, he is a racist. So it shouldn't surprise us that there were not children who were black or brown or not white at the Easter egg roll, but it should horrify us, just as pretty much anything having to do with Donald Trump should horrify us. And we should notice these things, guys. We should notice. Look at his staff. Look at his cabinet. Look at the Republicans in the House and in the Senate. Look at them. They do not represent us in any way, shape, or form in terms of gender or race or religion or ethnicity. They do not represent us. Pay attention. So thank you, Elaine. What did I just do? Suki56 in the house. Thank you so much for that. That's awesome. Question. Christy with a bug out bag. $3,000. Meds, passport, and work ID. All she's missing is a change of clothes. JD visited the Pope on Saturday. Easter was Sunday. Pope dies on Monday. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, if you don't believe in coincidences. Well, okay, so first of all, we're talking about Christy Noem, who sadly, she murders puppies with glee. She's Secretary of Homeland Security, unfortunately. She's also a sadist. She reported her handbag missing. I guess that they ate at a restaurant or something. And I mean, I don't know. First of all, who carries... She had $3,000 in her bag and her work ID. I mean, who carries that kind of cash? Unless it's a go bag or something. And what person with that level of authority just like carries their ID around in their handbag? Like what's even weirder about this story is that her Secret Service detail was there, which I don't know, seems weird to me. Like, how did she get robbed with her Secret Service detail? I mean, I don't care that she was robbed. She murders puppies, and she's all for putting people in harm's way. So I don't care, but it's a little weird. Anyway, I mean, also that $3,000, that's a lot of money to be carrying around. It's bizarre. People are bizarre. Stacy, question. Can U.S. Marshals arrest Donald and his advisors? What would happen? No, they cannot. They work for him. God. What would happen? I mean, it wouldn't happen. So, Oh, well. I bet some of them want to, but also probably not enough. Havana, thank you so very much for that comment from Australia. Stay strong. Thank you. We need that. We need all the help we can get, and Australia rocks. I love Australia. Speaking of which, Just Me is here. thank you very much for that. Comment, another reason to love Canada, we have turtle crossings. You got to be patient, LOL. Yeah, right? Turtle crossings. It's brilliant. It's like those bridges they're starting, those animal bridges they're starting to build in some places so that animals can migrate from one side of the highway to the other without getting run over. And they really work too. And it's safer, right? It's safer for drivers too. So, yeah, it's awesome. Stephanie, thank you so very much, Stephanie. Therapy tip. We're going to be fighting over this one. Thank you. Who's going to get it? I don't know. All right. Nancy, thank you. Oh, it's a turtle tax. Thank you, Nancy. I love the turtle tax. And finally, a super sticker. Jane, thank you so very much, Jane. That's awesome. All right, guys. That does it for us. Again, another quite long news day. But we made it. We made it. Monday's winding to a close. Fabulous. All right. So first of all, thank you to everybody who's watching on YouTube, everybody live streaming on Twitter, and from my Substack, The Good in Us, that we really appreciate that as well. And everybody listening to the podcast, that's also wonderful. Nerd Avengers, remember, tomorrow, Nerd Avengers are at a new time, Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. I keep forgetting that, actually. So I think I'm in trouble, but I'll figure it out. Oh, yeah. You know what? It's going to take a little getting used to. But yes, Nerds at 3 o'clock. And then Mary Trump Live at 6, as always, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. And we have videos dropping all the time, so please look out for them. It's like one of the easiest ways to support us is, one, subscribe to our channel, please. We are really trying to get to 400,000 subscribers soon, as soon as possible. And that's a great way to help us. Also, liking our videos, sharing our videos, commenting on our videos, so please check them out. We really think that, we work hard on them, and we really think that you will get a lot out of them as well. To our moderators who are awesome and do very difficult work for us, just out of goodness, and out of a belief in what we do here. So we appreciate that tremendously. Obviously, to all of our super stickers and everybody giving us gifts, we appreciate it so much. I mean, you guys really help us keep this up, which we are determined to do. And of course, to my phenomenal team for being phenomenal. Especially, seriously, Mondays are just, I don't even know how to describe what these guys do on a daily basis, let alone Mondays when it's exponentially insane. So thank you for, staying grounded throughout all of it, and just doing it with equanimity and humor and hope, which sometimes is difficult. All right, that does it for us. I will see all of you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, again, for the nerds. And I think that's it. And then, of course, the live at 6. So thanks, everybody. Please have a good night. Stay safe and be